What do we know about the Twilight Forest? It's a mod that adds a new Twilight dimension in Minecraft. It has over 110 million downloads on CurseForge. Also, is one of the oldest mods. It was released on August 19th, 2011, which means it will be 13 years old this year. Twilight Forest is still alive and active in development, but over the years it hasn't been able to finish what it started. Today I'll tell you about this incredible mod. As any mod that adds a new dimension that came out in that period, there is a portal. However, the author of the mod, Dynamatic, decided to go other way. It doesn't need to be created in the form of a typical portal to the nether. The player will just have to find one diamond, dig a hole 2x2, 1 block deep, and place any flowers around this hole. Throwing a diamond into the water will cause a lightning bolt to strike from the heavens and create a portal to the Twilight Forest. This is where our journey into the wonderful world of Twilight begins. When I first played this mod, I tried to skip the night. I went to bed and after waking up, it was still dark. I couldn't get what's going on for a long time until at some point I realized that this is a Twilight Forest. It's constant twilight out there. Yeah, that happens too. Let me tell you about this dimension. The entire Twilight world currently has 21 biomes, but it's not that simple. The dimension is tacitly divided into different areas, and there are biomes in these areas. Typical and the safest area. In it, you can safely explore locations without worrying that you'll meet a monster that wants to do damage. The biomes teeming with life, there are a bunch of plants, running animals, and you can find ancient ruins packed with hidden treasures. There's also a swamp area. It has a warm and humid climate, but it's quite different from the overworld swamp. In fact, often in the center, there's another biome, a fire swamp, which is home to a horrible boss, Hydra. We'll talk about all the bosses a little later. The next area is the Dark Forest. If you suddenly remember the Dark Forest from the vanilla game, then forget it. In comparison with this one, vanilla seems too bright and full of life bio. Even if you look at the top of the forest, it's a depressing sight. In front of you, only a flat desert-like space consisting of treetops. Not a single ray of light passes through this forest canopy, which makes the forest floor extremely dark and dangerous, and it's home to a multitude of monsters. Next is the cold terrain. You'll recognize these biomes very easily. Everything is covered with snow. There are frozen rivers and giant spruce trees, but this is quite a dangerous place where you need to be careful. Highlands. These are peculiar mountainous areas that rise above the Twilight Forest. Here you can find flying islands, and in the center there's a giant and majestic castle. But getting to it is a challenge, after all, it's completely surrounded by thorny branches. Rare lands. From the name we can understand that we can come across the biomes included in these lands, of course, but you have to try hard. If you see them, you'll definitely not confuse these truly unique landscapes and unusual creatures that inhabit these areas. And now the most important thing. If in vanilla Minecraft you're free to do anything and explore any biome, in the Twilight Forest, there's something like progress. Your character can move to a new biome without doing certain actions and killing a boss. It's a kind of metroidvania. Don't worry, I'll explain. Metroidvania games usually have a large connected world available for exploration, although the passages to some of its parts are blocked by doors, lack of information, and other barriers that can be overcome by picking up a suitable tool or learning an ability elsewhere in the world. To start the journey, each explorer needs a map. Since this is a magical dimension, you need a magical map too. You can of course use a vanilla one, but it's not help you much in your wanderings. The magic map must be created. For this, you'll need a raven feather. It's easy to get it by killing a bird in the Twilight Forest. 2 feathers will drop at once. Then you'll need torchberry plants. Often they're underground and hanging from the roots. But if you're suddenly afraid of kobolds, sometimes these berries can be found in small ravines. You'll also need a glowstone. I think everyone knows exactly where to find it. By combining all 3 ingredients, we'll get a magic map focus. Then this focus should be placed in the middle of the workbench and then surrounded with ordinary paper. And the magic map will appear, which still needs to be opened as you explore the territories, but it will indicate the location of bosses and biomes. A very handy map, you'll definitely need it. As I pointed out earlier, this mod is a metroidvania. Therefore, you cannot get to other biomes without defeating monsters. You've got to do things step by step. So, what do we do? Where do we start? It's simple. As soon as the player approaches any blocked area, he'll be met by a strange beast called Kobold. Kobolds are small blue creatures with big ears. It's said that they used to be good house spirits. They brought gifts of wheat and gold to humans, but for some unknown reason, they became evil creatures. Now they attack players without provocation. They're often found underground in dark areas and attack in packs. If you kill one kobold, the others will be confused for a while. Then the player will have time time to escape. After death, they leave wheat and gold pieces. So, after the player enters the blocked area, the kobold will rush up to him with a book. After dying, he'll drop the book in which the player can read a hint on further progression. It all starts with the Naga. As soon as the player tries to approach the giant castle, Kobold will come up with a book. It says that there's a snake-like creature nearby, whose scales will help to pass through the force field. The player can of course try to destroy the blocks and get inside, but they will regenerate at the same second. The Naga inhabits a small courtyard surrounded by stone blocks. There is no entrance to this courtyard, you can either break the gate or climb over the fence. Iron armor, a sword, a bow, and also a shield are enough to fight the Naga. The Naga is the first boss and he's quite weak, but do not underestimate him. This creature moves fast as the battle progresses. The Naga will lose body parts and become even faster. Once the player defeats it, a reward crate will form in the center of the courtyard. There will be from 6 to 12 Naga scales, as well as a trophy. The trophy is a regular decorative block, will be dropped from each boss. You'll need any of them to unlock one location. We'll talk about it later in the video. Scales, on the other hand, are useful items. They can be used to create leggings and chestplate. It's not necessary to do that. As soon as the player takes them in inventory, he'll be able to get into the castle of the Lich. If you go to the swamp area, you'll see a monstrous horde of mosquitoes. They will not bite the player, but only make him hungry. If the player still decides to go through it, he'll be tortured by fire in the fire swamp. Walking through the swamp will damage and set the player on fire. As it turns out, the mosquitoes in the swamp are some kind of curse, which are imposed by wizards. The curse is very strong, and maintaining and activating it requires the strength of all the wizards. Destroying one will break the curse. That's what the book says in a nutshell. At the end, it says that one such wizard sits in a tall tower with a pointed roof. It's a reference to the Lich King castle. After destroying the Naga, you'll be able to enter the castle. In it, hordes of evil zombies, skeletons, and even spiders await the player. But the most unpleasant ones are the Death Toms. They constantly fly and throw their pages at the player. On the last floor, the player will face off the Twilight Lich. This boss is quite dangerous. He has 50 life hearts. For example, the Iron Golem has the same amount. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. Lich has 3 phases of battle. In the first phase, he summons his shadow clones, and he also protects himself with spinning shields. The Lich throws ender pearl-like projectiles at the player. To win, all you have to do is knock back the projectiles and try to make sure they hit the spinning shields. After destroying the shields, the Lich will advance to the second stage. He'll start summoning the undead until his scepter breaks. Then he'll move on to the stage 3. The Lich will pull out a golden sword and attack the player himself. After victory, the player will get the trophy, parts of gold enchanted armor, ender pearls, bones, as well as one of the 4 scepters. After that, 3 locations open up to us at once: the swamp, the dark forest, and the snowy forests. Since I started with the swamps, let's move there. Fortunately, after destroying the Lich, the magic weakened and the mosquitoes flew away. Now the player can freely move forward. In the center, the fire swamp awaits us, which will still burn us to the ground. At this point, the player will be approached by the kobold again. The book will tell us about one more defense spell. Logically, it's also fueled by some powerful creature that is nearby. It turns out that somewhere in an ordinary swamp there is a labyrinth. In it, you can find an ancient creature, Minoshroom, which most likely boosts the spell. In fact, you can find a small hilltop in the swamp that indicates a descent into this labyrinth. The labyrinth is a sketchy place, and there are many dangers inside. Here you can meet creepers, slimes, fire beetles, slime beetles, and the usual Minotaurs. There are 2 levels in the labyrinth, and on the second one there is a boss. The levels of the labyrinth are pretty much the same. Here you can find dead ends made of lava, torches, treasure chests without traps, chests with traps of course, but the most interesting is the hidden room. This hidden room has 4 double chests with hidden treasure in them. But all this fades before the main reward, the Maze Breaker pickaxe. The thing is that the walls of the labyrinth are made of stone, which can of course be destroyed, but the cost in time is equal to mining obsidian. How to find this room? We'll need another magic map, but this time it's gonna be the Labyrinth map. This in turn can only be obtained from Minotaurs. I want to note that the map works only on 1 level of the labyrinth, so you'll need 2 maps for 2 levels. On the map, this room will be marked with a cross and a square. How do we get to it? You can break the blocks with a pickaxe, or you can blow up the walls. Yeah, dynamite will instantly destroy the wall. but you need to be careful since this room also has a dynamite trap. Therefore, it's best to blow up a few layers and later wield the pickaxe. As soon as you get there, you need to destroy the pressure plates. Then just take the treasure. As I said, the most valuable thing here is the maze breaker, a pickaxe that destroys the walls of the labyrinth in seconds. On the second level, Minoshroom awaits us. He's another boss. He's locked in a room with mushrooms, and the room is locked with a fence. What's the reason for this? No one knows exactly. As soon as you go in, he'll start attacking. He has 60 life hearts. This is a very difficult boss, so you'll have to try your best to destroy him. After the victory, the player will receive the trophy, a diamond Minotaur axe, as well as beef stroganoff. Just exactly what you needed all along. After eating this dish, the player will receive protection. He'll be able to enter the fire swamp to fight the fearsome monster, the Hydra. In the fire swamp, it's necessary to be extremely careful. There are many lakes with lava and also some blocks emit smoke. These blocks are very insidious, and if one emits only smoke, the other, exactly the same, can release flows of fire. In the center of the swamp, you can find the Hydra. This is a very dangerous boss, therefore it's necessary to prepare for the battle. You'll need at least diamond armor, a bow, a sword, and a fire resistance potion. The Hydra constantly emits fire breath, and sometimes it can even be a fireball. Therefore, you need to be quick and quite dodgy. After killing one head, in a while, in its place, there grows 3. The player should try to destroy the Hydra as quickly as possible until it doesn't have too many heads. After victory, the player will receive the trophy, the Hydra meat, and fire blood. From fire blood as well as tears, which are dropped from another boss, you can create fire ingots. These ingots are used to create armor which has the highest defense rating. Destroying the Hydra gives us pass to the final location, but to do this you need to defeat a few more bosses. We'll get to that a little later. After killing the Lich, we've unlocked the Dark Forest. Specifically, we're interested in the Goblin Knight's fortress. This area is very dark, which makes it dangerous. It's very difficult to see exactly what's where. You're gonna see the fortress right away. It stands out with its red bricks. In the center of the structure there's a pedestal. On it you need to place any trophy that you received from killing a boss. Afterwards you can take it back. This fortress is a very confusing dungeon with several levels and many dangers in the form of goblins, knights, crabs with helmets, kobolds, and creepers. From time to time, in the long hallways, you'll come across treasure chests, but the chests are not generated as often as you'd like them to be. Eventually, wandering through this dungeon, you'll come across a tomb. The entrance to it will be blocked by iron bars. As you enter the tomb, from the graves will raise Phantom Knight. You'll not be alone, but divided into parts. This is not a particularly difficult boss, so you'll need the same equipment as for the battle with the Hydra. After defeating him, you may get a sword, a pickaxe, an axe, a shield, a helmet, a chest plate, and the trophy. The trophy is dropped with a 100% chance. Then 2 pieces of armor and 2 types of tools. Once the player defeats the Phantom Knight, they'll be able to enter the Dark Tower in the center of the Dark Forest. It's a gigantic structure that is just breathtaking. It reeks of majesty. I could tell you a lot about the structure, but then this video will be 1 hour long. It's an incredible sized dungeon with many rooms, various entrances, and exits. This tower is very technologically advanced, even considering the lifting with the help of building blocks. A full-fledged puzzle to complete in order to get to the top. To get to the top where the boss is waiting for us, his name is Ur-Gast by the way, you'll need to find 4 keys, which are hidden in 4 chests that are scattered all over the place. As soon as the player gets to the last floor, he'll meet Ur-Gast, the boss of this structure. This is the most dangerous boss, so go for it only in full diamond armor with a sword and tons of arrows in the inventory. His main attacks are fireballs, which the player can successfully knock back at him, thus causing irreparable damage. Sometimes Ur-Gast can summon his small minions, then it will be a big problem. This boss also has a Hysteria mode. He only invokes it when his health reserve reaches 50%. In this case, he'll change the weather to thunderstorm weather and will start summoning minions constantly. He's not gonna attack the player, he'll only emit bitter tears that will cause terrible damage. Ghost traps can help the player in a battle. They're located on each of the 4 sides of the tower. When stepping on a plate, the trap is activated, and if the Ur-Gast is nearby, at the moment of activation, it'll catch him, and the player will be able to damage him with a sword. After the victory, the player will get the trophy, Carmenite, and fire tears. Carmenite can be crafted by hand and used to create various devices that were used in the Dark Tower. Ur-Gast is the second boss that must be defeated to get to the final castle. After that, the player can lead to the cold area, specifically in the Alpha Yeti cave. It'll open after killing the Lich. Finding this cave is very easy. It looks like a square-shaped hill. 4 entrances give access to the icy interior, where regular, blue, and packed ice hangs from stalactites. The floor of the cave is completely covered with the packed ice. In general, Alpha Yeti is not a dangerous boss. He just throws ice blocks in all directions. Sometimes he can grab the player and throw him into the wall. All you need to do is dodge the attacks and shoot with your bow. When Alpha Yeti gets tired, he'll start crying, and in this interval, it's the best chance to attack him. After beating him, the player will receive the trophy, ice bombs, and an Alpha Yeti fur. His defeat will allow the player to go further and get to Aurora's place. Otherwise, you'll not be allowed there by a terrible and ferocious blizzard, which makes it difficult to move. Aurora Castle looks just as beautiful as the Dark Tower. It's still just as majestic. The walls of this castle shimmer in color of the Aurora Borealis, which, by the way, can be seen in the sky in this biome. This castle has only one entrance. The overall structure of the place consists of many tall towers, connected by small doorways at different levels within the chambers. Some rooms can be accessed by simply climbing the stairs, but others are built in such a way that you have to jump, mine, and place blocks to get further. It's very easy to get lost in this castle, so take plenty of torches with you to light and mark your way. There is also the second way. Just destroy blocks and build upwards. This castle is not enchanted for resistance, but then there is a chance to miss the nice treasures that are in the chests. Among the monsters that can be encountered are snow guards, as well as stable and unstable ice cores. They differ from each other only in the fact that unstable ones after death explode, causing damage to the player but not destroying blocks. On top of this castle is the sanctuary of the Snow Queen. The Snow Queen is the boss of the structure. She seems like a very easy boss for me too. All she does is fly on blocks of ice and summon snowballs. From time to time she tries to drop her ice on the player and throws snowballs. Bows are useless against this boss. You have to predict the moment to hit her through the blocks of ice. After victory, the player will receive the trophy, a triple bow or Seeker's bow, packed ice, and snowballs. The Snow Queen is the last boss that must be destroyed before going to the final location. If this is not done yet, after the player arrives in the Highlands, he'll be greeted affectionately by toxic rain that will deal damage. After killing 3 bosses, the radius of the rain will be reduced and will only go over the final castle. But it's not that simple. The thing is that the final castle is surrounded by thorny bushes. In order to pass, you'll need to do something else. First, you need to go down into the troll caves. They are located underground in the location Highlands. Down below, the player will find aggressive trolls, skeletons, and even witches. It's necessary to find a small obsidian box. By destroying a few blocks, the player will be able to enter and find a chest there, which contains special soil and magic beans. Once the player goes to the surface and plants these beans in the soil, a giant stalk will grow out of the ground. If you climb on it, you'll find a cloud on which giants live. They look like the player. In my case, the giants used my skin. It's necessary to defeat the giants and take the stone pickaxe. It's simply gigantic in size. Once the player has it, he must go back down to the troll caves. In the center of the cave is a giant obsidian block, which can only be destroyed by a giant pickaxe. Keep in mind, even with this pickaxe, the process takes time. After the destruction, you can find 2 double chests. In one of them, there is a fire lamp. As soon as the player takes the lamp, he'll receive a message that at this point it's the final stage of progress. The castle that we've been going to for so long and hard is still being developed. This location appeared on October 8th, 2017. Since then, the development is still going on, and if suddenly you have ideas, you can join the discussion in Discord. I left the links in the description as always. So, what do we need a lamp for actually? To burn thorny bushes. When approaching them, the player can set them on fire one by one or a small section at once. After burning them, they turn into ashes and instantly scatter. The final castle is very beautiful. It's really big, it has a lot of rooms. In some places, there are signs with inscriptions that will be added here. On top of the castle, you can find the area where the main and final boss of the entire Twilight dimension will appear. What I've told you today, this is only a small grain. The mod is very interesting. It has its own lore, there are its own mysteries, hypotheses, and theories. You should explore everything yourself. That's how this mod, the first version of which was released in 2011, after almost 13 years, is still an active phase of development. Have you ever played this mod? Write in the comments. While you're waiting for a new video, I suggest you watch these. They're also very interesting. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, ring the notification bell, and see you soon.